90.7 KPFK, Los Angeles.
Russia, if you're listening.
Talk show, random, political, outrageous, philosophical, analytical, passionate, sunsets, roadkill cooking tips, open-minded, swordsman, bent, resolute, chocolate, bushwhacker, belt buckles, investigative, companion, fearless. Call in, piercing the cloud of mainstream entertainment. It's the Cary Harrison Files.
Don't forget to sign up for our newsletter at caryharrison.com, caryharrison.com, C-A-R-Y. There you're going to get a transcript of this entire show, plus access to clips and stuff we simply, we no longer could do on the radio. And that's our newsletter at caryharrison.com. Well, you, me, the weary, tax-paying, democracy-clutching audience, today we're going to delve into the charming saga of the richest man on the planet.
Social Security is the biggest Ponzi scheme of all time.
Right, explain that.
People pay into Social Security, and the money goes out of Social Security immediately. But the obligation for Social Security is your entire retirement career. So you're paying you're paying
a man who gobbles up government contracts with one hand, while strangling that same government with the other. Yes, guess who I might be talking about? Elon Musk, the celestial swindler, the oligarch extraordinaire, the man who'd sell you a ticket to Mars, but can't keep his own Teslas from auto-immolation. And yet, despite his cartoonish villainy, your elected representatives still shovel public money into his bottomless pit of corporate welfare like devout worshipers feeding a golden calf. You see, Musk has built an empire not just on rockets and electric cars, but on the unshakable belief that the rules simply don't apply to him. He rakes in billions, I sound like the president, right? Billions from federal contracts, then turns around and declares that the government is the enemy. Like a houseguest who raids your fridge and clogs your commode, and then lectures you on the virtues of self-reliance. He's not just another billionaire padding his wallet with public money. He's actively working to dismantle the institutions that made his success possible in the first place. Now, I wish I could just stop and let it all soak in for about 3 minutes, but dead air is like the Democratic Party, and we don't need any more listless, spineless, meaningless nothingness while the bulldozer rolls over 280 million of us. Pissed? You bet I'm pissed. What in the diddly frig does it take to get impotent crustaceans like Chuck Schumer, who represents the entire Democratic Party in the Senate? What does it take for him not to rubber stamp all the Zeke Heiling? Why in God's name would he work hand in hand to gut agencies, silence critics, and tilt the scales ever further in favor of a sweaty oligarch? It really is, it's an impossible situation. But a government shutdown, well, at least that will always reflect on the president first, especially when he's convinced everyone he's a superhero, that he's flawless and the most brilliant, amazing, handsome, brilliant, best president ever, even better than George Washington. Plus, he says he loves flip-flops. Who knew? No one knew. Maybe it's because America is now in such a terrific and totally beautiful golden age that winter is hereby abolished and it's going to be summer all year round. Summer all the time, folks. Thanks to rising sea levels, we're going to have so much beachfront property that flip-flops will become the national shoe of America because you'll be wearing them and dealing with them all the time, while everyone is totally winning, and it's going to be so great, so great. We're continuing to flip-flop on trade policy, which I think Americans are happy about. And we're going to use the tariffs, which we will implement, but maybe not yet, but maybe 50%, or maybe 25%, or 200%, or maybe even no tariffs at all. But we're going to use the tariffs. We're going to use them to take back everything that was stolen from us and so much more. In addition, as of today, the illegal and totally unconstitutional boycott of Tesla will end, and every American homeowner will be required to purchase a Tesla so they can be totally great and live the American dream. Every American must buy a Tesla as of today, which are very affordable automobiles. They come at very affordable prices, but every homeowner will be required to purchase a Tesla so that Elon can continue to be able to feed his very, very big family. And boy, he spreads his seed even more than maybe immigrants, who I totally love, by the way. Does this sound like someone you know? But Elon is making a huge sacrifice, a very huge sacrifice, because he loves our country and wants to save our country. And he's doing it all for free, for nothing, just out of the goodness of his heart, because he's a patriot, even though he wasn't born here, and he wants America to succeed. Oh, I got another one later. And the other one came from just 2 days ago. At least right now, there are several judges who do not want, who do not want to see more of this and do want America to succeed. And they've stepped in to try to stop the lunacy. We can only hope that they feel vindicated in doing their constitutional duty, and that others are going to join them to empower even more judges to do as the founding daddies had intended. Otherwise, we're dealing with a billionaire so deeply entwined with government handouts that if the spigot were ever turned off, he might actually have to compete in the free market that he claims to love. But worry not, because today, our guest isn't here to swoon over rocket launches or sing odes to innovation. No, we're joined by Sanjeev Berry, a foreign policy analyst and human rights advocate whose work includes the ACLU, Amnesty International, the NRDC, and Rainforest Action Network. You've probably seen him on news networks, so he's here now to discuss an idea so revolutionary that it has lost the timid minds of most Democrats in Congress: cutting Musk off from the chapped nipple of his government trough. Sanjeev's here to discuss the new proposal for halting federal contracts with Elon Musk companies in a national campaign to get U.S. senators to block all taxpayer funding for the oligarch. Sanjeev Berry, I want to welcome you to the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Cary. It's great to be here. I really appreciate it.
I love setting you up like that. You're just like an all-star superhero for us.
Well, I think you're the superhero, leveraging your spotlight to help people who listen to you and watch your show figure out how to take action in this crazy, insane time that we're all in. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate it. Let's just jump right on into it, because this is what's on everyone's mind, Sanjeev Berry. Why do you think the Democratic Party has been so reluctant to use legislative power against Musk, despite his open hostility to democracy?
I mean, this is a huge question that has a lot of us scratching our heads. It seems quite obvious, man. Just having Elon's image on screen is giving me heart palpitations. But it's it's the problem that a lot of us are scratching our heads about. Why is Chuck Schumer, such a scaredy cat on this? I just saw on social media that Nancy Pelosi is asking senators to reject the Republican Trump spending plan and is essentially going over what Chuck Schumer is asking senators to do. So you're seeing even Nancy Pelosi getting frustrated with Chuck Schumer, along with the rest of the Democratic Party and all of us who are deeply concerned about the future of our country. I remember, Sanjeev Berry, it was some years ago. It was an outrage. It was another Trump outrage or something. And Chuck Schumer looked at the cameras, pulled his half-lensed eyeglasses down to the end of his nose. If he'd had pearls, he would have clutched them and said, "I'm terribly disappointed." I mean, it was such an outrage. Disappointment doesn't even touch it. Let me describe disappointment. Disappointment is when your summer house in Nantucket has sheets on the guest bed that the maid forgot to change. That's disappointing. This stuff is orgasmically outrageous. And thank God Nancy has risen out of her corpse-like body once every 15 years to do something, because this is the inflection point, Sanjeev Berry. SpaceX valued at $350 billion, largely thanks to government contracts. How much of that valuation do you think is actual innovation, and how much is political favoritism? I mean, with both Tesla and SpaceX, it's the sort of mystique that Elon Musk has built over the years that enables them to be valued not based on what they're actually delivering, but what people hope or imagine or fantasize that these companies will produce in the future. And so that's why we're seeing Tesla stock collapsing, even in the 24 or 48 hours after Trump decided to turn the White House into a car dealership. I mean, the simple fact of the matter is that reality is catching up, right? I mean, that's
I'm
what it
only
is. Like
laughing
I
because
in
it's
my
true.
mind, no, it's true. I mean, and I started thinking like maybe the action we all need to launch is to just bring our used cars to the White House for a trade-in, because that's the level of chintziness that this White House is going for. But the bottom line is it's not working, right? Tesla stock are continuing to go down because people don't want to buy them, and not just people in the US, but people in Europe. And it goes even further than that. I saw a headline recently that the city of Baltimore is backing away from a prior plan to buy Tesla vehicles. And that's where the rubber hits the road for all of us. In my original piece that in The Intercept, I wrote about blocking federal contracts for SpaceX and Tesla. But it turns out we can do this at the state and local level as well. If people at the local level, in city councils, at the state level, in state legislatures, at the county level, push for their governments to commit to not buying Teslas, to not buying Starlink from SpaceX, we will crush Elon Musk's wealth, and we will send investors fleeing.
Sanjeev Berry, I think a lot of us have now seen, we've seen the picture of the White House becoming a car dealership, which it became that the day of the election. However, it really became that. Some of us have seen the famous 1938 photo of Adolf Hitler, the Führer of Germany, with a Volkswagen, same thing, standing with the developer of Volkswagen, selling it as the people's car to the people of Germany from the federal MIT. Same thing, like using literally a way to sell cars to make himself rich and make his friends rich. Exactly the same thing we saw in 1938 have we now seen. If anyone doesn't think this is a gigantic grift, they really haven't been brought around. So if Elon Musk's companies lost access to federal contracts tomorrow, what do you think would happen to his empire? Would it collapse, or would he find another way to keep this grift going?
No, it would collapse. I mean, SpaceX is the world's most valuable startup, but that is because of its deep ties to the US government and the expectation that Trump will shovel billions more towards Elon Musk. But if there's a movement in the United States to push US senators to filibuster bills that enable or allow for funding for Elon Musk's companies, that movement's going to pick up steam, and that movement's going to be scary to investors in SpaceX, as well as people who are buying Tesla stock. And the good news is we don't have to start with the Senate, even though I think we would have allies there. And if we ask folks like Senator Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren to support this with enough public support, they would. You can ask your local city council member, your local county supervisor, your friendly state legislator to introduce a bill at the local county or state level saying that they will not spend any of your tax dollars on SpaceX or Tesla products. SpaceX, of course, produces Starlink, the internet platform. So there's a real opportunity here to take this to the grassroots, just as the movement to protest Tesla stores is already happening. And if we do that, I think that there's a real big shot at just crushing Elon Musk's wealth and sending a message to Jeff Bezos and all the other oligarchs that they need to back off.
If you'd like to see our handsome guests, you can watch it right now on YouTube. You can simply Google Cary Harrison YouTube and subscribe so we'll stay connected. When you show up at your driving destination, simply switch over to the stream on your phone at the Cary Harrison YouTube channel. Also, don't forget to sign up for our newsletter at caryharrison.com. There you're going to get a transcript of the entire show, plus access to stuff that we just can't do on the radio anymore. And that's our newsletter at caryharrison.com. We're talking to Sanjeev Berry, foreign policy analyst, human rights advocate, a man who agrees that the U.S. government shouldn't be bankrolling Elon Musk's empire, while Musk gleefully dismantles the very system keeping his fortune afloat. And we're talking about a new campaign in which democracy should serve people instead of tech oligarchs lighting cigars with government contracts. It's so like 1940s, but here we are. And let's talk a little bit about the Freedom Forward organization that you're involved with. They certainly don't think this is a great idea.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. Ouch! Well, by wearing a small remote device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM. Call now and get free shipping of your new CGM, plus we'll bill your insurance for you.
877-282-8102. That's 877-282-8102. 877-282-8102. 877-282-8102.
Hey, sorry about that.
I was just
I'm
pointing
pretty sure
out
that
the
was
freedom.
interference.
It happens. It happens when you're using Starlink. I'm using Frontier, which still is not related. Let's talk a little bit about the Freedom Forward organization, which is the force behind removing Elon Musk's fangs from the neck of you and me, the taxpayer. They're clearly taking a risk by doing this, and hopefully politicians, Democrats, and Republicans alike, who seem terrified taking on billionaires. I'm feeling actually hopeful knowing that you're doing this. And I think a lot of us need that.
Thanks, Cary. I mean, I will say that when I see folks like Elon Musk or Trump out there doing what they're doing, my mind goes into campaign mode. I scan for vulnerabilities and then I get excited. And Elon Musk has a lot of vulnerabilities. If folks want to get involved in this campaign, all you have to do is go to .org and just take the first step of signing the petition, calling on senators to block Musk. So you've just follow up with you that you plugged into the actual campaign. It's freedomforward.org. Our mission is basically to back freedom in the world and democracy at home. You know, the U.S. government has for too long allied with dictators and repressive governments, especially in the Middle East. And here at home, our own democracy now is on fire thanks to the oligarchs and Donald Trump. And so Freedom Forward is here to help build the campaigns that take back our democracy at home and end U.S. support for dictators abroad. And so going to the website is the easiest way to get involved in this campaign. And I'm going to be posting very soon draft language that you can take to your city council, to your county board of supervisors, to your state legislature and say, please introduce this as a bill. Let's make a commitment to not buying anything from Elon Musk.
Sanjeev Berry, you've mentioned that a filibuster could be used to block funding to Musk's companies. What would it take for that to actually happen? Do you see any senators willing to take that stand? You did mention a couple, Bernie, Elizabeth Warren. Do you think a filibuster could actually work here?
From Chuck Schumer's dance these days, he's behaving in a very cowardly fashion. So we would need other senators to step up. And I think they're more likely to do that as they hear from people across the country that we're sick of our tax dollars funding an egomaniac like Elon Musk while he sets fire to the rest of the federal government, all the parts of the federal government that help, keep us healthy, financially secure, safe, all of the services that help us as a country through our tax dollars, through our earnings. He's setting fire to all that. And I think that senators will pay more attention as we take this up and bring it to them.
Sanjeev Berry, I'm looking at a bunch of different messages coming in from Blue Sky, which is where we like to put our love. Also Twitter, Substack, different places. I'm just going to pull one out that's clearly big on people's minds. Somebody is asking that Musk has spent $250 million supporting Trump. What kind of return on investment has he gotten so far?
I think he has hoped to get billions and billions of dollars of return on investment, but he's actually losing billions. I mean, what I've read is that he's lost $100 billion in paper wealth just in a matter of the last few days or weeks. So right now, his return on investment is very negative. His hope has been to lock in more and more contracts to more and more money. I look at Elon Musk and I see somebody who convinces himself that he is righteous, even though he's actually just greedy and manipulative. And I think that's been his goal.
If this were the Obama administration and there were even one cabinet member, or let's just say not hired non-government employee that went in with a chainsaw and started tearing apart the federal government with thousands of conflicts of interest, including the president, people would have said something. But I guess this is what it looks like, using the F word that I dare not say on the radio, where we're under a crypto authoritarian. It's not even crypto, but it is what it is. Speaking of crypto,
I mean, I look at Trump as somebody who doesn't have any long-term game plan other than bringing more cash into his pockets, whether it's attempting to ethnically cleanse Gaza and turn it into a resort, or just taking as much money as he can via his crypto scams or from Elon Musk. Like, he doesn't really care about anything. Even his base, I don't think appreciates the depth to which he just doesn't care about anything, including them. And so, taking Elon Musk's money and allowing Elon Musk to do whatever the heck he wants, I don't think Trump cares. I think Trump just likes spectacle. He likes headlines. It's the only thing he knows how to do. And he has no concept of how to actually govern or build or create anything.
We're now seeing judges stand up and enforce their constitutional obligation. We have a couple of them so far. I mean, I think we've had 3 or 4 now in toto over the course of weeks. I'm hoping that other ones will feel that they've got some support at their back. Like, I'm not the only one seeing the obvious, that there are others like me, and that our Constitution is actually strong enough to withstand this. You're in the business of looking at other governments, other groups of people, other systems like this that have unfolded fully and matured. This one has not yet. I would invite you to augur your crystal ball for a second. And, what's your confidence report that we can survive this?
Well, one of the things that I've learned from my time working on international human rights is just how paper thin the wall is between democracy and totalitarianism or authoritarianism. And that paper thin wall, as much as we like to think that it's about rules and institutions, it is all of that. But fundamentally, it's about agreeing to keep democratic norms. And when you have large numbers of people who are willing to toss those out the window in the service of an authoritarian ruler, then it becomes a lot harder. The good news is that if enough of us prevent that from happening by standing in the way, and it only takes a few percentage points of a population to block authoritarianism. It only takes a handful of percentage points to shut down the system, a percentage of the population. That if enough of us do that, we can send these people back into the ideological caves from which they emerged. And that means making it clear that the billionaires who are willing to compromise and sell out free speech, sell out, our basic institutions, sell out an independent judiciary, that they have everything to lose because they still depend on customers and citizens and voters. And when we turn our backs on them, their power collapses. So I guarantee you that Bezos, Zuckerberg, all of these folks are watching the Tesla stock collapse, are watching the mess that Elon Musk is making for himself and taking notes. And so we have to make it as big a mess as possible and really set a goal, I think, of completely breaking Elon Musk's empire. And once we do that, and just moving in that direction, as we move in that direction, we're going to send a signal that we're willing to fight back and fight hard to protect our democracy against those who only care about their naked, self-interest and wealth.
I remember a few years ago talking to an expert on GMOs, genetically modified organisms, which is ubiquitous in our food supply here. Mexico, early on in the game, when Trump became president, decided that they would no longer carry GMO corn. That real corn from the ground using, I know, shocking, sun and water, called rain, is their national crop, and no more GMOs. That was one of their first strikes back. All that to say, this guy, I think his name was Jeffrey Smith, who is really the uber expert on GMOs, said that they were able to remove high fructose corn syrup from cereal some years ago, and it only took 15% of the population. What I'm doing is supporting what you were saying, that it doesn't take that many. 15% of the population did not understand what high fructose corn syrup was, but they knew it was bad. They heard that it did something bad to you and that you should avoid it like the plague. And that is enough to really destroy the margins of a company that puts high fructose corn syrup in cornflakes. And then within a couple of months, you might remember vaguely seeing boxes of Raisin Bran with a big yellow stripe across the top that said contains no high fructose corn syrup. Now they're going to yell it because they did the right thing, but it didn't take that many people. So we have a chance here.
Yeah, and I would say that the numbers that I've heard when it comes to disrupting authoritarianism are way smaller than 15%. It's like 3-4%. If everybody and we're way beyond that in terms of the percentage of the population that's freaked out by what Trump is doing. With the latest being the attempted deportation of, the Columbia University student Mahmoud Khalil. Like now they're trying to take people out of the United States who want to speak their minds. So you're right? It's a small percentage of the population, and way more of us are concerned than that small percentage number. And if all of us just flex our muscle a little bit, this whole regime comes tumbling down. But we have to do it, right? We have to move beyond complaining. We have to move beyond simply, expressing anger to each other, and actually flex our muscles. Ask something of the people in power who are supposed to represent us, and go beyond that and actually directly disrupt the power and wealth of those who are driving this currently horrific direction that our country's in.
And you're recommending going to the freedomforward.org, freedomforward.org.
Yeah, there's a lot of important things we can be doing right now. I think one that would be really helpful is for people to join this campaign. And then I'm going to update everybody very soon on the specific steps you can take to block city, county, and state governments, and ultimately the federal government, from giving Elon Musk a single penny of our tax dollar wealth.
Well, thank you, my friend. I'm just going to reread something. Renee, our wonderful director, if you could bring that back up again. People who are watching the stream on YouTube or Twitter or X, formerly Twitter, wherever you're watching with a chip and a signal, you can put up comments. This one says, Trump swamplanders had likely pre-planned the current U.S. stock market's free fall and had likely heavily shorted the market and have likely already pocketed a couple of trillions from price collapses. Let's end with that, Sanjeev. Not that you know exactly, but your sense on that.
I mean, I think it's all of the above. I think Trump is incompetent as an economic manager. I think he likes conflict and headlines. I think there are a lot of people who are just happy to make money on any which way the chaos goes. So yeah, absolutely. I think that's true, but I don't think it's just some kind of conspiracy. It's just my opinion, but I think it's people trying to profit every which way off of every corrupt and crazy thing Trump does, including Trump himself, including he and his family.
Well, other than that, have a nice day.
Thanks, Cary. Thanks so much for having me.
I am so glad you've been on with us today, and I hope you'll come back again. We've been talking to Sanjeev Berry, foreign policy analyst and human rights advocate. He's a man who agrees that the U.S. government should not be bankrolling Elon Musk's empire while Musk gleefully dismantles the very system that keeps his fortune afloat. We've been talking about a new campaign in which democracy should serve people instead of tech oligarchs lighting cigars with government contracts. You can learn more simply by going to freedomforward.org, freedomforward.org. Cary Harrison with you. This is the Cary Harrison Files. When we continue on the other side, we're going to jump to a couple of college students who say that climate change is real. They're stuck here on this planet at least 70 more years. They have skin in the game like no one else. And they're going to give us the bottom line on what's real and what's not. And that's in just a sec.
This pussy grabs back. The Cary Harrison Files. CaryHarrison.com.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? Well, you call low-cost airlines because they specialize in cheap flights, in discount hotel rooms, in cheap car rentals, and with the best price guarantee. Often 75% off. 901-235-1795. 901-235-1795. 901-235-1795. 901-235-1795.